Blackleaf Canyon is one of many canyons in Montana's Rocky Mountain front. Here along the front, a 150-mile north-south mountain range just to the south of Glacier National Park, the Rockies leap up from the Great Plains. Here grizzlies still roam the Great Plains, their ancestral home. Gray wolf, prairie falcon, white pelican, golden eagle, and numerous other species live here. Oil and gas development threaten the biological integrity of the front. In Blackleaf Canyon, oil and gas drilling have been proposed by the Bureau of Land Management. The planned project would include 14 gas wells, 36 miles of new pipeline, and 23 miles of roads. This would affect 40,000 acres of grizzly habitat in roadless land adjoining the Bob Marshall Wilderness.
So here you got these wells producing 2 and 3 million cubic feet a day. I mean, they're very, very productive wells.
The Blackleaf area itself has become very crucial. It's adjacent to the Antelope Butte Game Management Area, and with the Boone and Crockett Ranch to the north and the Pine Butte area to the south, the status of the bears rides a lot on the Blackleaf. The Blackleaf, we found, was used a lot by grizzly bears. They follow the streams down way out into the prairies. They use the swamp itself and then go back into the mountains up the drainages there for denning in the winter. The area has become crucial in that they not only have found both oil and gas in the area, but they are now actually exploiting the gas resource and have a reduction plant there and all.
I guess I can't quite understand something, and this is, if in the evolution of our country, you know, we lose a animal or two, they become extinct. They become extinct because they're no longer needed. I mean, I really, personally, don't miss the saber-toothed tiger or the dinosaur. I mean, you know, we don't need them. And we're always undergoing change in our world, and people are, at this point, part of this ecosystem. We are part of it. I mean, we can't have a balance.
But should we dominate it?
Huh?
Should we dominate it, rule it, manage it?
Dominate it. That's what we're here for.
Drilling is planned for Volcano Reef, home to grizzly and wolf. The grizzly bear now lives in less than 1% of its former habitat. This is public land. Is it in our interest to drill here?
you could make an argument, I think, would be very good, that in terms of the world itself, for choice sites in the world that are in fact feasible for addition to national park systems, that whole East Front area, I think, would be very, very logical. I think if you classified all the optimal areas around the world and then cross-reference that with the ones that are maybe possible in terms of the sponsoring nation or in terms of consolidation of the lands, that East Front area would come out very, very near the top. It does have holes poked into it. There are quite a lot of roads into the area from the old drilling and exploration activities, but also from the new ones. There was a lot of seismic activity in there about 20, 30 years ago. And a lot of those roads are still somewhat intact. The scars are still there. There are some new ones with the new exploration in the Blackleaf area. And I think that's what the major concern is, that with additional drilling, with additional development of whatever reserves there are there, that we'll get constant degradation of that blackleaf part of this habitat that stretches for almost 200 miles along the front there. And it's right in the middle, and it's very crucial. Animals do move not only down from the mountains out in the prairie through there, but they also move north and south through there. The type of oil and gas that's in the area is also part of the equation. They do have a lot of hydrogen sulfide there, a lot of sour gas. The production of that is very difficult. The controlling of it is very difficult. You have to have a plant that can clean it very close to the site where it comes out of the ground. You've got the constant threat of a well or a pipe or a new well exploding and you know, literally drenching the area with deadly gas. The pipes are constantly corroded and need changing and are a constant danger because of the degradation from the sour gas. The fact that America or the United States could create a park, I think, is really important here. A lot of countries have nice places like it would compare with this, but nothing's going to happen. They can't afford to designate it as a park. They don't have the expertise to document it, to argument for it. They don't have a population of people who will fight for it and get it established. And I think that too makes this a special area, because if American people wanted to have a much larger national park extend down along that area, we could afford it, we could do it, we could build a public support, and we could then give the world more national park in a very special area. There are, like I say, other special areas, but it's not going to happen in most places. I think the very fact that it could happen here is an important consideration. Certainly it qualifies in terms of scenery, animals, uniqueness, all of that sort of thing. As far as Montana is concerned, some people might say, well, who needs more national park? But you have to remember that national parks are in fact an international resource. And more, I think, Montanans are starting to realize that there's a tremendous value in having these special areas and areas protected for people of the world, and also for our own economy. A major part of the Montana economy is already built on tourism and tourism industry, and I think gradually the population of Montana is beginning to understand that this is a tremendous resource, and it is very important in the future of Montana.
Something is happening to your national forest. On the slopes above Overwitch Creek, in the headwaters of the Bitterroot River in western Montana, the trees were cut down, then the mountainsides collapsed. How did this happen? Was it the road building? Was it the clear cutting? Was it the deliberately set fires? Who did this? Was it the Forest Service? Was this done with your tax dollars? We met with the Bitterroot National Forest Supervisor, Steve Kelly. He declined a video interview, but did give us the official Forest Service incident summary, stating, "An intense rainstorm on June 25, 1992, caused severe erosion in the channels of 4 tributaries of Overwitch Creek, from the headwaters located in the Overwitch II burn to the confluence with Overwitch Creek. Sediment from the tributaries flowed directly into Overwitch Creek and through Painted Rocks Reservoir into the West Fork of the Bitterroot River. Preliminary findings indicate that a large percentage of the fish community in the lower 5 miles of Overwitch Creek may have been destroyed. According to forest watershed and soil specialists, clear cuts and roads did not cause the Overwitch incident or contribute significantly to the eroded material.
This is not a natural disaster. The Forest Service made a series of high-risk management decisions that led to this catastrophe. First, they built roads into this steep roadless area to get up into some of the last untouched forest for the purpose of cutting down the trees. Then they took the risk of clear-cutting the trees on these steep slopes right down to streamside. Then, when they burned the logging slash during hot, dry weather, wildfires escaped on 2 separate occasions. With 1,800 acres of burned forest, clear cuts to streamside, and roads dicing through steep drainages, the land had been put in a precarious situation.
There's 375,000 miles of roads on the national forest in the United States. That makes the Forest Service the #1 road building agency in the world. That's enough roads to go around the circumference of the Earth 15 times. It's 1.5 times to the moon and back. It's 8.5 times the interstate highway system.
These burns that we see today are a result of the Forest Service. They were burning slash and clear cuts, and it got out of control. Until prompted, they were not mentioning the cause of the fire. If a member of the public were to start a brush fire in their backyard and it got onto national forest land, they would get a bill to pay for the firefighting and rehabilitation of the land. In this case, the taxpayer foots the bill. It takes at least 10,000 years to build up soil that can sustain a forest. So soil is not a renewable resource. 10,000 years of evolution of soil is heading downhill, along with boulders 3 feet across and trees 100 feet long. Suspended in the water, the clay, silt, and sand kept moving, hit the creek, and killed the fish. 100 miles downstream, the silt has reached Missoula. From the Clark Fork to the Columbia, it will reach the Pacific Ocean.
The Forest Service has broken the law here. The National Forest Management Act mandates that there are not any practices permitted on the national forest that change the water temperature, the chemical composition, the flow, the sediment load, or fish habitat. On every one of those points, the law has been broken.
Congressionally approved Forest Service mismanagement killed this area, and they continue doing this. This is not old forestry. This is 1980s, 1990s style forestry. I don't know if this is just the new forestry or the new and improved forestry, but it's really the same old forestry.
When the Forest Service punches roads like this into previously wild areas, they're no longer available for wilderness designation. Is that why the Forest Service is in such a road-building frenzy?
Suffering an 8-year drought here in Montana, a 1-inch rainstorm could have been a blessing, but it had a detrimental impact. It doesn't take a scientist to recognize that water will follow the path of least resistance. We are right in the middle of the catastrophe. There are eroded drainages on both sides of this, and yet this drainage is still intact. That's because it hasn't been under Forest Service management. This is indicative of what it would have been like with this 1-inch rainstorm on a natural forest. There would not have been a catastrophe.
What we see here today is horrifying to people. It seems hopeless, and folks feel helpless. But there is a wonderful alternative. It's called the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act. It's a bill proposed by the Alliance for the Wild Rockies, awaiting introduction in Congress by someone with vision and courage. It's a bioregional approach to ecosystem management, protection, and restoration of wild lands. It encompasses the remaining roadless areas in the Northern Rockies of Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, and adjacent parts of Oregon and Washington. This bill protects the region's remaining big wilderness complexes, as well as undeveloped corridors between them for migrating wildlife. Wildlife and their habitat don't know state political boundaries.
Overwich is not an isolated situation. The Forest Service is road building, clear cutting, and burning on every forest in the United States. When will this happen in your backyard? They sawed the right-of-way for the road, and then they came in and they sawed the trees out of the clear cut. And then when the fire escaped, they sawed the fire lines, and then came the sawing for the fire rehabilitation. Now they come in with saws to attempt to patch up the catastrophe. So basically, that's the Forest Service's main tool, the chainsaw. It seems to be their answer to all the needs of the forest. And they're still out here sawing.
The wild trout fisheries of Montana are world class. The habitat that supports that world-class fishery is on the national forests and the public lands for the most part. The same habitat that supports that fishery, that wild trout fishery, is also the habitat that supports elk, that provides security and cover for elk, that provides security and cover for wide-ranging, low-density species such as lynx and fisher, wolverine, wolf, grizzly, black bear, mountain lion, is also threatened with the cutting that's going on and the logging and the road building that's going on. The reason that much of it is being destroyed is because of political pressure from politicians, from some of the politicians in the administration, some politicians in Congress, and also through actions of people who hold the real power in the Forest Service. I'm speaking of the chief, of some of the regional foresters, of the chiefs, some of the chief staff. For the most part, the people on the forests and the ranger districts don't hold the real power in the agency. But these people that I mentioned are breaking the laws that govern the administration of the national forest. And they're breaking the regulations and in many cases the forest plan standards through political pressure and coercion and that kind of thing. We all can do something about it. We can and should write to our congressional delegations and ask that an independent group of scientists be appointed to make a special investigation of the administration of the national forests in the northern Rockies. You can also support a bill that hasn't been introduced yet. It's in writing, that would protect all the remaining RODOS lands. I believe that bill is called the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act. It's up to all of us as Americans. We have a right and an obligation, actually a duty, to protect the natural resources of this nation from destruction.
On September 9th, 1992, Representative Peter Kosmeier introduced the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act before the U.S. House of Representatives. Contact your representatives and support this visionary legislation. For more information on the bill, contact the Alliance for the Wild Rockies.
The people you are about to see and hear are all members of Friends of the Bitterroot, a grassroots group of conservation volunteers working in the Bitterroot, the Rock Creek, the Salmon, and the Big Hole drainages.
Protecting roadless areas has to be the cornerstone of any overall wildland conservation policy.
The Friends of the Bitterroot have been working to protect the areas you are about to see. They form a hub between the North Continental Divide, Salmon-Selway, and Greater Yellowstone ecosystems. We believe and hope to demonstrate that they deserve protection. Through our involvement, they have been included in the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act, a bill now before Congress. The passage of this bill will protect these areas as wilderness. Separating the Bitterroot Valley from the famous Rock Creek drainage lies Stony Mountain in the heart of the Sapphire Range. It's home to one of the largest elk herds in Montana. Migrating to the southwest along the Sapphire Additions, wildlife can find critical habitat in the sleeping child. An island in a sea of clear-cuts, the Sleeping Child roadless area is the last of the low-elevation old growth in the Bitterroot National Forest. Straddling the Continental Divide, the Anaconda-Pintler additions include Tolan Creek, Beaver Lake, the North Big Hole, Balsam, Needle, and Swift Creeks. Located along the Montana-Idaho border, Anderson Mountain has been recommended for wilderness by Idaho Fish and Game, the Idaho Conservation League, the Montana Wilderness Association, the Alliance for the Wild Rockies, and Friends of the Bitterroot. Allen Mountain, a vital biological corridor linking three major ecosystems, attracts people from all over the Northwest for skiing and other recreation. Threatened by mining interests, the Blue Joint forms the headwaters of the Bitterroot River and connects the Bitterroots with the largest contiguous wilderness in the lower 48 states. These grand, massive canyons of glacial moraine and spectacular escarpments make up the Bitterroot Additions, much needed by wildlife for low-elevation winter range.
One of the major reasons that it is critical for these wildland areas to be put into wilderness is the fact that over the last 5 decades, the Forest Service has proved that there was no real protection for roadless lands under their management. Therefore, the only tool that we have at this time is wilderness designation.
I've been associated with the logging here for 28 years. I was a logging supervisor, superintendent for Champion. I've been involved in cutting many hundreds of millions of feet of timber, and it's not all new to me, so I kind of know what has went on and what's going on. There's no federal Forest Service employee that's ever held accountable for any damage that's ever been done on this forest or any other forest.
And if you do catch them in something that's been done wrong, well, that was the guy that was here before me 20 years ago, or that was the guy that was here 20 years ago before him. So if you don't have accountability, you don't have credibility. The people don't trust them no more. And I think their track record speaks for itself.
Forest Service monitoring policy must be changed so that managers do not monitor their own work. Forest plans must be revised. Harvest targets must come down to sustainable levels. The allowable sale quantity in the Bitterroot Forest Plan of 33.4 million board feet is unrealistically high and can't be reached without violating environmental laws. The resulting shortfall has angered timber-dependent businesses, working people, and conservationists.
They want to road up this entire national forest, and they want to manage everything that can be managed for timber. But I didn't know, I never know, or I was never told that we were mandated to create a gigantic tree farm. It's the road that causes the clear cut, that causes the access, that causes the sedimentation to our water and our fishery. The road is the #1 problem.
On the Bitterroot National Forest, the road density exceeds the forest standard. We have 375,000 miles of roads on the National Forest. That's 15 times the circumference of the Earth, or 8.5 times the interstate highway system. That's 1.5 times to the moon and back. Roads, once a road is constructed into a roadless area, that area is no longer available for wilderness designation. They encourage the invasion of weedy species like spotted knapweed and leafy spurge, which has become a problem. They encourage road hunting, poaching, litter bugs, off-road vehicle use, and roads simply are bad for the habitat. We need to start reclaiming and restoring roads. We need to recontour them and reseed them, and we can put folks to work in some kind of a wildlands recovery corps, restoring wilderness. And one of the major things that would employ them for a long period of time would be taking out roads.
We've got to pay more attention to protecting the topsoil. The forest is what builds the soil and it protects it from erosion. The roots hold the soil in place, and the leaves and needles are what builds the nutrients in the soil. When you remove the forest, you remove the source of nutrition, you remove the stability. These areas that we're talking about protecting here are particularly erosive and fragile. They're on the steep ground. Blue Joint is one of the wilderness study areas, and it's being subjected to geological exploration for gold deposit by a large mining company from Canada. I mean, I'm a miner, I'm an exploration geologist, and I work for the mining industry, but I really do believe that there are some places that are not suitable for mining, and Blue Joint is definitely one. The values in Blue Joint for the biological diversity, for wildlife, and for clean water, and what the forests are contributing, far exceeds the values that you could get from a gold mine operation.
We taxpayers pay for the destruction of our own forests. We pay again to stop the destruction and again to repair the damage.
In the future, what's important is going to be what we learn from nature, not what we extract from it. And in order to keep learning from nature, we have to safeguard naturalness, which is the wellspring of good ideas. There's not that much natural land left. In forested ecosystems, we only have 4% of our original forests left, and only 1% of that is protected. When we're safeguarding that 1%, I think we're safeguarding our future. Scientists will tell you that we simply don't know enough yet about these complex and elegant processes that keep air clean, that keep water clean, that hold soil on the slopes, that keep the soil fertile, and that keep a diverse array of species living and interacting and evolving. People ask, why can't we just have a very small area, put a fence around that, and that will be our repository of ideas? Well, as we know, when you fragment an area, you simplify its roster of species. We need areas that are large enough to have species evolution occurring, to be able to have, ecosystems breathe. They breathe materials and genes and nutrients with the ecosystems next to them.
We've learned in the last 10 years from conservation biologists like Dr. Michael Soule and Reed Noss that what we need in order to protect biological diversity is an interrelated system of large inviolate nature preserves surrounded by buffer zones where multiple use type activities can occur in a very gentle manner, and have these inviolate conservation reserve areas connected by habitat corridors so that large mammals and other wild native forms of life can exchange genetic material on a periodic basis. And it's important to realize that habitat corridors aren't like an analogy of highways or anything like that. It's not something where you're going to have a constant stream of animals moving back and forth. Really, all you have to do to protect the genetic integrity of a population is to occasionally have an infusion of new blood into that population.
And scientists say corridors need to be 30 miles wide and contain lower elevations. Isn't it time that the decisions should be based on science and not politics? According to a recent economic study, Montana counties which are located near wildlands, once dependent on resource extraction, now prosper in spite of a national recession and a slump in the timber industry.
This is great country. We have magnificent mountains, we have rich wildlife, and I think people here must decide what they want to do. This isn't only a concern of Montanans and those in the Bitterroot, it's a concern of people everywhere because everyone owns a piece of these wild lands. The roadless areas are few, they're remnants, they're what are left over. And now we see a campaign on the part of the major timber companies to put pressure to get the last of what's left. The Forest Service goes along with the construction of roads and the loss of the habitat that's so important.
But we've got all these people with this clear-cut mentality, the same type that almost exterminated the buffalo, that are out here wanting to exploit everything we've got. Well, I'm no radical. I've been there, and I know what I'm talking about. Things got to be done right.
It's not at all a radical idea to ask to save what's left. Actually, it's a very conservative idea.
I would strongly advocate that these lands be set aside as part of the wilderness system.
Would you like to help? Then join a local environmental organization like Friends of the Bitterroot. Write letters to the editor, your congressperson, and senators supporting the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act, House Bill 2638. Tell your friends about the destruction of your public lands. Get active.